Some people walk into a room and the whole atmosphere changes. The conversations get quieter, eyes start moving in their direction, and they haven't even done anything yet. They're not necessarily better looking than you. They're not dressed better. They may not even have a stronger voice. The only difference is that they understand a secret most people never notice. Presence isn't something you're born with. It's an equation, and it begins with how strongly you believe in yourself before anyone else decides to believe in you. Robert Greene summed up the entire idea in one line: carry yourself like a king before others decide you're a follower. But most of us were raised to do the exact opposite. We walk into a room asking ourselves, do these people accept me? Do I belong here? Do they like me? And that is the trap that destroys your presence before you've even said a word. What we're talking about today isn't fake charisma. It isn't expensive clothes, forced confidence, or some performance you put on for other people. These are principles that have been used in royal courts, wars, negotiations, and political power struggles. And they still work today. At work, on the street, in meetings, in relationships. Anywhere you walk into tomorrow morning. Before we go any deeper, if this already feels uncomfortably familiar, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. The first law you need to understand is that authority never comes from talking too much. Authority comes from controlling your words, from using fewer of them, and making each one carry more weight. The person who comments on everything, explains every situation, and justifies every decision sends a very clear message to everyone around him. The message is, I need your approval. And without realizing it, he loses his presence before the conversation is even started. Greene repeatedly returns to the idea that power is often built more effectively through silence than through speech. Silence has never automatically meant weakness. Silence forces the person in front of you to study you. It makes them try to understand what you're thinking. And when you leave space, people fill that space using their own imagination. Their imagination will almost always create something larger than anything you could have explained yourself. Imagine walking into a meeting where everyone already knows one another. You're the only new person in the room. The first mistake you can make is trying to capture everyone's attention as quickly as possible. You start talking about your achievements. You tell stories that prove your value. You try to convince everyone that you deserve a place at the table. Greene describes this as the need for recognition, and few things expose insecurity faster. A person with real presence enters the room slowly. He chooses where he sits with intention. He doesn't automatically rush toward the center of the room or fight for the most visible chair. He speaks to fewer people. But when he does speak, his words are focused, relevant, and difficult to ignore. Then, he allows everyone else to become curious. And curiosity is the first brick in the construction of presence. The moment people start asking questions about you without you asking for their attention, the equation has shifted completely in your favor. And you still haven't had to force anything. There's another dangerous law connected to reputation. Greene says your reputation is your fortress. Build it carefully and defend it relentlessly. That isn't decoration, and it isn't empty motivational language. It's an accurate description of what happens inside every real social environment. Your reputation is the shadow that enters a room before you do. If your reputation says you're dependable, composed, and solid under pressure, you walk in carrying weight before you've said a single word. But if people know you as someone who breaks promises, changes his position, or collapses when things get difficult, you enter the room with almost no weight at all. The problem is that most people never consciously think about their reputation. They allow it to form by accident. It gets shaped by random emotional reactions, careless decisions, and whatever they happen to do when they're under pressure. The person who understands the game decides early what kind of reputation he wants to build. Then he lives with enough consistency that the image becomes fixed in the minds of everyone around him. Nobody tells you that presence has a hidden enemy: over-availability. When you're accessible to everyone at any time, your perceived value slowly begins to fall, and most of the time you don't notice it happening. Human beings naturally assign more value to things that are harder to access. That isn't necessarily arrogance or selfishness. It's an uncomfortable part of human nature. Someone who can call you at any hour and always find you waiting will eventually stop seeing your time as valuable. You become a guaranteed service rather than a person whose time carries weight. Little by little, they begin to treat your availability as something they're entitled to. The line between being open and being over-available is extremely thin. Very few people can explain that line, but everyone can feel its effect. Greene reveals the power of scarcity and argues that social value doesn't come only from your quality. It also comes from how difficult it is to gain access to your time, your attention, and your energy. If your time and effort are open to everyone with no limits, their value falls. But when you manage them carefully and give them deliberately, their value rises in the mind of every person around you. There's a point in Greene's work where he arrives at an idea that should stop you for a moment. Real power isn't controlling other people. Real power begins with controlling yourself. And that is the dividing line between someone who possesses genuine authority and someone who is only pretending to be strong. The first person can manage his nerves and his reactions under pressure. The second person explodes, becomes defensive, or begins explaining himself the moment someone pushes him. Controlling yourself doesn't mean killing your emotions or becoming a block of ice. It means giving yourself 1 second to think before you speak. It means choosing your response instead of allowing the situation to choose it for you. The people who provoke you and try to make you lose control aren't always doing it because they're bored. Sometimes they're testing you. They want to know where your limit is. They want to discover what makes you react. And once they realize your emotional boundaries are exposed and easy to cross, they know exactly how to control you. They know which nerve to touch, which insecurity to activate, which wound to press. Some people learn these laws of power and apply them in the stupidest possible way. They become permanently tense, cold with everyone, rigid in every situation. They turn themselves into a bad performance of what they think strength is supposed to look like. And the result is obvious. They look fake. They look as though they're playing a role that doesn't fit them. Real presence doesn't mean destroying your emotions and becoming a machine. Real presence means choosing when to reveal emotion, which emotion to reveal, and who has earned the right to see it. A person who can laugh honestly, relax at the right moment, and then become completely serious when the situation demands it isn't being fake. He's socially intelligent. He understands the room he's standing in. Greene talks about the importance of adapting to the atmosphere without selling your principles or changing your core identity. Changing your approach doesn't mean erasing who you are. The person who fails at social presence is usually trapped in one of two extremes. Either he's so stiff and unresponsive that nobody can feel his presence at all, or he changes so constantly that nobody can trust him. In every social circle, there comes a decisive moment. The first moment somebody challenges you. Maybe they answer you with a disrespectful tone. Maybe they make a joke at your expense. Maybe they try to reduce your value in front of the group. The way you respond in that first moment can define your position among those people for a long time. The first response that destroys you is the defensive response. The moment you start justifying yourself, explaining too much, and desperately proving that they're wrong, everyone understands that the comment hit you, and people don't easily forget what they learn about your weak points. The second response that fails is obvious avoidance. People are intelligent enough to recognize the difference between someone who genuinely didn't hear a comment and someone who heard it clearly but is pretending not to notice. That kind of silence doesn't always communicate strength. Sometimes it communicates fear. It tells the room that you heard the challenge and chose to escape from it. The response that protects your presence is usually calm, cold, and brief. One sentence, two at the absolute most. No angry tone, no defensive explanation, no nervous smile. Then you turn away and continue speaking about something else, as though the irritation disappeared before it had the chance to become important. Before we close this book, Greene leaves us with a powerful conclusion. A truly free person owns something nobody else can give him and nobody else can take away: his internal will. And that takes us to the deepest point in this entire game. Presence built on compliments and public approval is fragile. It can collapse in seconds because people change. The same crowd that praises you today can turn against you tomorrow. But presence built on clarity within yourself is different. That kind of presence is a mountain. It doesn't move every time the wind changes direction. Internal clarity means knowing exactly what you accept and what you walk away from. It means knowing what deserves your attention and what isn't worth a response. It means understanding your own value without waiting for somebody else to put a price on you. People can sense that before you even open your mouth. They can feel when they're standing in front of someone whose feet are planted on concrete instead of sand. Naturally, not everyone will like you, but they will take you seriously, and they will respect you. In the laws of social power, respect is stronger, rarer, and far more dangerous than being liked.